Black Widow has finally released after a year being delayed, so let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Diz TV. If this is your first time here, welcome home. We are so glad to have you. And like I mentioned, Black Widow has finally released, so let's talk about it. If you're new to my reviews, quick little things to mention. When it comes to thinking about movies critically, I go through 1 through 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. And I do have a fun factor, which is kind of my personal opinion of how I rate the film, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Spoilers are included throughout the entire video, so keep that in mind. Anyway, let's dive into my overall thoughts first.
Thank you for your cooperation.
This movie is a lot of fun. It is much darker than any entry of the MCU. The only way I can really compare it would be like Captain America: The Winter Soldier, just by how dark and grounded both of those movies are. And this one is, it's no different. It really is one of the more serious entries into the MCU, but that doesn't mean that they can't have some jokes here and there, especially with Yelena and Red Guardian. Both of them bounce off really, really well. Character-wise, they're all great. The story, it's a lot of fun. It's also, again, outside of it being more darker, it's a much more serious Marvel movie. I wouldn't recommend it for, like, younger kids because it may be hard for them to understand some of the stuff that's going on. But it's a great way to bring us back to Marvel movies, especially after a year of being away because of, everything that's going on in the world. But it is overall a pretty great movie.
Well, there's a chance you might be in the wrong business.
Moving on to characters, this is definitely a shining moment in, a shining part of this movie. The characters are great. For me, it's definitely Red Guardian and Yelena. Those are the two characters that really stand out while they're on screen. Just their banter and also just who they are as characters are very, very unique and different. And yeah, it's definitely some great character building, but also at the same time gives us a little look into the people who influenced Natasha's early life. And yeah, I gotta say, I really enjoy the characters. The villain-wise in this movie, I don't know how I really feel about it. Because, don't get me wrong, Draco's a good villain most of the time. I mean, he's kind of like that mastermind who thinks he's above everybody or above everything else. And it's fine. It's not great. I think it could have been a little better, and this also does apply into Taskmaster. Some of it looks more like, oh, it's, instead of him actually having superpowers, well, technically her, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Instead of her having superpowers, it's, the mess that's in front of her. But also at the same time, like, they also say that she does have powers in a sense. Like when we first see Taskmaster, they are watching like a screen of some of the stuff that happened at the airport during Civil War, and just seeing all the different fighting styles of some of the characters. But the reveal that it is Draco's daughter whom Natasha thought she bombed was okay. Like, I mean, it was set up to like, oh, of course it's going to be that. But my first reaction was, really? Like, Taskmaster is a very popular and a good villain in the comics, and seems to be that way. The way they went with it in the MCU was kind of disappointing. But other than that, all the characters, pretty great. And of course, Natasha Romanoff is also really, really cool as well. Obviously, she is, and has been that way throughout the entire MCU. But to see her, like, a little bit of her backstory, get to know more about her. We finally get to find out what happened in Budapest, which is awesome. Of course, we're going to get to see more of Yelena going into Hawkeye series. But I would love to see more of Alexei, aka Red Guardian, because David Arbor did a fantastic job with that, and Florence Pugh also did a fantastic job.
Okay. That one's on me.
Overall, story-wise, other than it being more serious and more of a grounded tone than, versus a galactic battle, in Wakanda or, at the Avengers compound or wherever that might be. This was definitely a step back in story to be much more focused on Black Widow. And it's done well. Story-wise, it flowed very well. The ending part does get a little confusing because they kind of slowly reveal the plan as, it's happening, if that makes sense, which is kind of cool. It does work and blend itself well there. It does have some real good stand-up moments, and it does have some very, very serious moments throughout the movie. And it's not like, there's a joke in there to add like a tension breaker or whatever. They let it sit for a little bit, and that's a good change for this movie. Of course, they do have some good funny moments, but it does blend itself very, very well to the story, and also to the characters' personalities. And so that, I think, is what makes it work very, very well. However, in the story, it does miss some key things that, you kind of would think could happen, such as explaining who the heck Nat's friend is, explaining that a tad bit, maybe diving a little deeper into Budapest. Some of those could have probably blended itself a little bit better to the story, and also when we first get introduced to the red powder that allows all the widows to change back from being like all like psychologically twisted to reverting back to before they were converted, if that makes sense. Like, that whole plot is, it's somewhat straightforward, but it also is confusing. The way it was introduced probably could have been set up a tad better, because we see this happen and we see Yelena change real quick, and that could get quite confusing. It was confusing for me, so there is that. But other than that, story-wise, it was pretty well done. One thing I do have to chime in on, one of the things I do love, is the score in this felt very ominous and very well done. It's done by, I believe, Lorraine Balfe. I think I mispronounced his name. Anyway, he did another one of my favorite movies, 13 Hours, starring John Krasinski. It's a war movie. It's a very good war movie. But anyway, the score is also done very, very well. Again, very ominous and also very chorus or choral leaned in certain cases. But other than that, I really did enjoy the music selection. Also, just the songs that they chose fit well in the story.
I need your impression.
Overall, if I had to give this Marvel movie a grade, I definitely would give it a 7.9 out of 10. I really did enjoy this movie. It was a great swan song for Black Widow, for her character, Natasha Romanoff. Yeah, I just enjoyed it overall. If I had to give it a fun factor, it'd definitely be a solid 4 out of 5. It was a lot of fun to watch. Of course, it is a little darker, more serious tone, so keep that in mind if you have a younger viewer. They may not be able to understand certain things, or they be asking a lot of questions. Also, do keep in mind there is a post-credit scene, and it is mind-blowing. It dives directly into an upcoming Disney Plus series, which I'm very excited for. But anyway, other than that, I really did enjoy the movie. If you have a chance to go either see it in theaters or watch it through Premiere Access on Disney Plus, I would suggest it. It's a great way to bring back Marvel into the movie form. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe down below and hit the bell to be notified for more videos on Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, the parks, and so much more. I'll see you all in the next video. Have a marvelous day. Goodbye.